A few years ago, I made a video in defense of Big Brother 21 winner Jackson Mickey, who was facing unfair accusations of racism. While I stand by everything I said in that video, I will admit my vocal delivery was perhaps too passionate and aggressive for the average viewer.
It's like my brain is a calculator trying to divide by zero! It does not fucking compute!
Little did I know, the Ballad of Jackson Mickey was only the beginning of an ongoing televised race war that would continue in each subsequent season of the show, leading up to the recent expulsion of a contestant named Luke Valentine, who I had the opportunity to interview over on my podcast channel. But before we can dive into Luke's story, we need to take a look at the journey that brought us to this point. Back in the summer of 2020, a man named George Floyd committed suicide by overdosing on a drug called fentanyl. Now, personally, I thought that George Floyd was killed by an evil, racist white police officer who woke up that morning with the cold-blooded desire to kill an innocent man. But according to the forensic scientist who wrote George's official autopsy report, he died from an overdose of illegally manufactured fentanyl and methamphetamine. And if I've learned anything in the last few years, it's that you have to trust the medical science. And if you don't, you're a fascist Nazi. In response to this tragic suicide, society's most productive and valuable members began rioting in the streets and burning down local businesses in a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. The executives at the media company CBS Viacom saw this societal unrest and came up with a solution that would appease the angry mob: disproportionate representation in the media. So, they invented a new casting rule for their reality competitions, a forced diversity initiative, stating at least 50% of each cast must be a member of a minority group. And of course, when people say diversity, what they really mean is black people, because that's realistically the only group that has benefited from this change. Each season, we still get between 0 and 1 Hispanic people, 1 to 2 Asian people, and exactly 1 gay man. But now instead of 1 or 2 black contestants, we get 5 or 6. If they wanted to stay true to the demographics of America, surely they'd have 5 or 6 Hispanic contestants each year. But despite the fact that thousands of Mexican children are being kept in cages down on the border, Mexican people haven't tried burning down 7-Eleven yet. So I guess they don't need to be appeased with overrepresentation on reality TV. That brings us to Big Brother 23 and the formation of a secret alliance called the Cookout. For the first time ever, there were 6 black contestants competing in the game, and they recognized that a black person had never won Big Brother before. Despite their severe lack of representation, in the past, the game has had an Asian winner, gay winners, Hispanic winners. One time they tried to have a transgender winner, but she had a complete mental breakdown and then they never cast a trans person again. Oops. But for some reason, a black person had never managed to win. So the 6 of them formed a secret alliance with the intention of getting all of them to the end of the game without Whitey being any the wiser. And it actually worked. That season was a literal race war, and the black people won. Now you're probably expecting me to say that the alliance was racist or something, but I was actually a big fan of the Cookout. I thought it was a great strategy because the 6 of them were basically forced to stay loyal to each other in the game due to wider societal and racial implications. And of course, as soon as it came down to the 6 of them, the black men immediately targeted and betrayed the black women. And it was kind of hilarious. Tiffany easily could have won the game if she stayed true to her side alliance, but she basically sacrificed her chance at providing for her family just to guarantee that somebody with dark skin would win the silly reality TV show. Yas Queen. That brings us to Big Brother 24 and a man named Kyle. About halfway through the game, Kyle looked around and noticed there were a lot of black contestants still in the house. And as somebody who had witnessed what the Cookout had done in the previous season, Kyle made an innocent inquiry. What if the black contestants are secretly working together for the 2nd season in a row? And they ruined his life for it. The angry Twitter mob wanted his head on a pike. They immediately began comparing him to the Ku Klux Klan and demanded that he get removed from the game for inciting malicious racism. Thankfully, Kyle's racism was proven wrong, because the final contestants at the end of the game weren't even black. Okay, so he was canceled and labeled a racist because he wondered if history was repeating itself. That's all it takes at this point. An innocent question based on historical precedents, and you're a modern-day KKK member. And that brings us to the current season, Big Brother 25. Knowing full well what happened to Kyle for even suggesting that black contestants might be working together, on day one of the game, all of the black people formed a secret alliance called the Brown Sugar Babes, with the confidence that if anyone questioned it, they'd be canceled inside and outside of the game. And of course, the rabid, angry Twitter mob celebrated this alliance and was completely oblivious to their severe hypocrisy. But the man of the hour, who got kicked out of the house by production for hate speech, didn't commit Kyle's sin of suggesting that black people might be working together in a social game. In fact, his number one ally was the only black man in the house. No. What Luke did was accidentally say the word nigga to a white person in a jovial, friendly way.
We were in the fucking room, nigga. Dude.
And from the way the angry Twitter mob reacted, you'd think he aggressively dropped the hard R against a black person to dehumanize him. For some reason, this slip of the tongue caught the attention of TMZ, the New York Times, and every other dying media news source desperate for clicks. And the Twitter hate mob once again compared a kind-hearted man to the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I know these people hate history lessons, but the Ku Klux Klan was fucking evil. They hunted down and violently lynched black people by the thousands. It is incredibly offensive and disgusting to compare either of these men to a violent, murderous hate group for committing the most minor verbal infractions possible. And they're gonna be stuck with this label for the rest of their lives. These dumb motherfuckers read the Scarlet Letter and thought it was a guidebook for an ideal society. This time around, the Twitter hate mob was so loud and angry that Big Brother production realized they needed to eject Luke from the game or else they'd share the same fate as 7-Eleven. So Luke was removed for the crime of hate speech. But given the context in which he used the word, there was nothing hateful about it. I don't think there's a hateful bone in this man's body. But these people don't care about context. They literally think that if you use certain words for any reason at all, in any context whatsoever, you are equivalent to the KKK.
They're DMing me about, medieval torture techniques they'd perform on me. But in graphic detail, like you ever heard of Iron Maiden, stuff like that.
The host of the show, Julie Chen, is married to former CBS executive Les Moonves. In 2018, Les Moonves resigned from the company after multiple accusations of sexual assault and literal rape. In response to the news that her husband was cheating on her by raping interns, Julie Chen had a complete mental breakdown and became a born-again Christian, and hyphenated her name to include his, from then on exclusively introducing herself as Julie Chen Moonves. That's right, she doubled down on supporting her rapist husband. So according to this Twitter hate mob, Kyle suggesting that black contestants might be working together 2 years in a row is an unforgivable sin. Luke accidentally saying nigga to a white person in a friendly conversation is an unforgivable sin. But supporting a literal rapist is just fine. Comparing innocent men to a terrorist group that lynched thousands of people is completely acceptable. Burning 7-Eleven to the ground because a junkie overdosed on meth and fentanyl is the definition of justice. Sending death threats to people because they said a word you don't like is just the consequences of one's actions. It might seem like we're living in a clown world, but we're way beyond that. This is a world where we've given in to angry mob justice, and we've blindly accepted the death of context. Now, obviously, all of this is my fault for still watching a show as shitty as Big Brother. But at my core, I still love the game for the strategy and social politics of it all. I just wish the production team running the show wasn't full of cowards who give in to the pressure of the mob. If you'd like to hear my full interview with Luke, I've got a link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, folks.